You know, the biggest mistake modern gardening ever made was convincing us that soil health can be reduced to a number. I mean pH charts, test strips, correction schedules, and endless amendments have turned living soil into a chemistry experiment. But here's the uncomfortable truth that history keeps whispering to anyone willing to listen. The people who fed families through brutal winters, poor land, and short growing seasons didn't obsess over pH at all. They mastered something deeper, older, and far more powerful. You see, ash wasn't a supplement to them. It was the key that made soil work. If you garden long enough, you eventually notice something strange. Two beds with the same pH can behave completely differently. One thrives, the other struggles. That's because pH doesn't tell you whether soil can function. It only tells you what nutrients might be locked or unlocked at that moment. Ancient growers understood that soil failure wasn't caused by acidity or alkalinity. It was caused by mineral collapse. Fix the minerals and the soil fixes itself. Old farming records don't talk about acidic soil or alkaline soil. They talk about tired ground, hungry land, and fields that had lost their strength. Their solution wasn't correction, it was restoration. Soil wasn't viewed as a chemical state to manipulate, but as a mineral system that needed rebuilding. Ash was their fastest, most reliable tool because it returned what fire removed, without disturbing the soil's biological rhythm. When hardwood burns hot and clean, everything organic disappears, but the skeleton remains. Calcium, potassium, magnesium, phosphorus, silica, and trace minerals are left behind in a highly available form. These aren't optional extras. They are the physical framework plants and microbes depend on to function. Without them, pH adjustments are cosmetic at best and damaging at worst. Modern advice treats ash like lime, warning gardeners it raises pH. That's technically true, but dangerously incomplete. Ash doesn't just change acidity, it restores exchange capacity. It gives soil the ability to hold nutrients, trade them with roots, and buffer itself against extremes. Once minerals are present, microbial life explodes, and those microbes regulate acidity naturally through their metabolism. This is why ash-treated soil behaves differently from lime-treated soil. Lime forces a slow chemical shift that can take months to stabilize. Ash works immediately because it feeds biology first. Seedlings can go into ash-balanced beds within days, something no responsible gardener would attempt with heavy lime or sulfur applications. Healthy soil doesn't sit at a fixed pH. It breathes, it flexes, it adjusts depending on moisture, root activity, and microbial demand. Minerals make that flexibility possible. When calcium and magnesium are present in balance, soil particles flocculate instead of compacting. Potassium strengthens plant tissue and regulates water movement. Silica thickens cell walls and boosts pest resistance. Together, these minerals create buffering capacity, meaning the soil absorbs shocks instead of swinging wildly. Ancient growers didn't know the term buffering capacity, but they knew the result. Their crops grew well in conditions that should have failed according to modern charts. The old masters treated ash like seasoning, not fertilizer. They never dumped it, they dusted it. On a square meter of garden bed, a small handful of fine, cold hardwood ash is enough. You should still clearly see the soil beneath it. This light application shifts mineral ratios without spiking alkalinity. Work the ash gently into the top inch of soil, then water lightly just to settle it. No soaking, no flooding. The goal is contact, not leaching. This micro-application approach is what made ash safe and effective across centuries of use. One of the smartest techniques passed down through northern kitchen gardens was frequency over volume. Ash was collected all winter, kept dry, and, applied every 2 weeks as soon as the soil thawed. Each dusting delivered minerals steadily, preventing overload while keeping biology fed. This method is especially powerful for heavy feeders like cabbage, onions, beets, and root crops that demand structural minerals to perform well. Gardeners who adopt this rhythm often notice tougher leaves, thicker skins, and, longer storage life in harvested crops. That's mineral density showing up where it matters. Well, ash was rarely used all by itself. This is the detail that, most modern gardeners tend to overlook. Ash without carbon can become a bit harsh. But when ash is mixed with organic matter, it becomes transformative. When ash meets compost, mulch, leaf litter, or straw, minerals bind to carbon instead of just washing away. Microbes really thrive, decomposition speeds up, and nutrients stay right where the roots can reach them. Layering ash with compost prevents over-alkalization and turns it into a soil-building catalyst rather than just a blunt amendment. This pairing is what allowed ancient soils to improve year after year, instead of, burning out. When breaking new ground, ash was applied before planting, not after problems appeared. A thin dusting worked into the top few inches set the mineral framework early. Once that foundation was in place, organic matter did the rest. This approach explains why newly cleared fields produce so well without additional fertilizer for an entire season. You can replicate this today. Before planting a new bed, scatter a light layer of hardwood ash. Mix it shallowly, then cover with compost or mulch. You're not feeding plants yet. You're teaching soil how to function. Ancient growers were selective. They used clean hardwood ash only. No treated wood, no painted boards, no trash fires. Softwoods heavy in resin were avoided for garden use. If you follow the same rule and stick to pure hardwood ash from clean fires, you're using the same material that supported agriculture across continents for centuries. When it comes to preparing ash, it's important to remember that it should always be cold, fine, and dry before you apply it. If you notice any lumps, that's a sign of moisture and an uneven burn, which, can really reduce its effectiveness. One of the most surprising results of working this way is just how quickly the obsession with pH seems to fade away. The soil, it becomes easier to work with. You'll find that roots can go deeper, and water infiltration, it just improves naturally. Crops tolerate stress better. Pest pressure drops. You stop chasing deficiencies because, they stop appearing. The soil does what it evolved to do when minerals and biology are reunited. Instead of correcting problems, you prevent them. Instead of reacting to numbers, you build capacity. That's the ancient trick modern gardening forgot. This isn't about rejecting science. It's about remembering that soil is alive, not static. pH is a snapshot. Minerals are the engine. When you restore the engine, the dashboard stops flashing warnings. If this guide helped you see soil differently, Make sure you subscribe to Crop Corner for more grounded, history-backed growing wisdom. Share this with a fellow gardener who's tired of fighting their soil and ready to work with it instead.